Start us off, Larry.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fred, you want to lead us through old business? Or the minutes and all that?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
A second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
There we go. Chief?
Monthly statistics, Mooresville Metropolitan Police Department for May of 2019. Incident reports 255, arrest reports 67, citations 171, warnings 455, CAD calls 2,984. Accident reports 47, had 42 property damage, 4 personal injury, and 1 leaving the scene. The officers turned in 102.5 hours of overtime, 49 hours of comp time, 23,206 miles. All 4 reserves participated and gave us their volunteer time for the month. We had 33 training hours totally. 2 canine officers also attended their in-service meeting. We had 472 911 calls.
And clearly today, the new building would be nice. Where are we at on that?
The new building, went down there today. Endeavor was down there putting in the computers, the printers, the monitors. The sidewalks have been poured.
Nice.
They're coming back in the morning to do the curbs and hopefully start on the parking lot. The original opening date was going to be the 24th for AT&T and everybody to coordinate. We've pushed that back now to July the 8th. It's just because of weather, getting the parking lot, getting the sidewalks, everything else done. We also had some issues with AT&T and Endeavor on the phone lines. So we're working out the issues. Hopefully within the next couple of weeks we should have.
So next month, hopefully we'll have room for these people, maybe?
There's 40 chairs downstairs in the training room, so yes, it's very nice. Very nice place.
And our new hires?
New hires, we have 3 individuals, Overmeyer, Martin, and Leap, who will be sworn in at 10 o'clock Monday morning over to Government Center by Sandy Perry, the clerk treasurer. The other process that we started, we have 3 currently with the academy background, and we have 7 without. They're all being background investigation being conducted on them.
Gotcha. And then you want to talk about some towing again?
Yes, I told you at the last meeting, we kind of took it under advisement, and I told you that I would come back in a month and give you a more substantial report, an up-to-date report. And again, Amanda has completed a report, and she will talk to you about that, and then I will address what we asked to amend SOP 9.07 under E. 1, the response time for towing and recovery service shall respond to an incident or accident. The old SOP stated 20 minutes. We debated that in the last meeting. We asked to change it to 30. And now after review and talking to Amanda and others, we have asked to change it to within a reasonable amount of time. And I'll have her explain.
Okay. For the month of May, Mooresville currently has 4 wrecker services that we use. I-70, Mooresville Towing, Larry's Wrecker Service, and Wheelers. I-70 during the month of May was called and responded 16 times. The highest wait time was 38 minutes, the lowest was 3. The average time for the month was 16.3 minutes. Mooresville Towing was called and responded to 16 calls for service during the month of May. The highest wait time was 22 minutes, the lowest wait time was 2. Their average for the month of May was 9.9 minutes. Larry's Wrecker Service was called 16 times. They responded to 15. They were canceled on 1 call after they've been on the way for 6 minutes. The highest wait time was 23 minutes. The lowest wait time was 5. Their average was 13.56, and this does include when they were canceled. During the month of May, Wheeler's wrecker service was called 15 times. They responded to 5 calls of service. They were canceled on 10 calls. 7 after they had been on the way for 1 minute, 1 after they had been on the way for 8 minutes, and 1 when they had been on the way for 24, and 1 after 26 minutes. 7 of the canceled calls occurred on late shift, 2 on day shift, and 1 on evening. The highest wait time was 31 minutes, the lowest was 15. The average time for Wheelers was 12.8 minutes, and that does include the canceled calls. I spoke with agencies in Johnson and Hendricks County, their chiefs and sheriffs, and asked about the time that they have on their wrecker rotations. They do not have a time. They do not have a time limit. All of their SOPs state a reasonable amount of time.
So therefore, it's up to the dispatcher and the police officer, given the circumstances at the
Correct.
time, on what reasonable means.
Correct.
I think that's a much better option than what we were talking about last month. That way, it depends on the situation, right? And the officers can make that call. I think that's probably better.
And that's what we're asking you,
Right.
just give us some leeway, whether it be at 2 o'clock in the morning, whether it be during the daytime, whether it be.
Yeah, rush hour is very
whether-
different than 2 a.m., right?
Correct.
I mean,
We're just wanting to stay with everybody else a reasonable amount of time, and we believe that we can enforce that and be all right with that.
thoughts, guys?
Well, I have a change. I want to stick with 20. I think we talked to Charles. Charles asked, and hasn't been any problems since this has been out. I mean, you asked that question, that's where it was answered. And I'm just I want to stay at 20. That's where I'm going to be, and
But
that's
based
my
on the
thought.
average times, it doesn't look like it's a problem
that's
for the most
where I'm
part,
at.
So,
So that way we don't have it where guy knows he's got to get there,
Mm-hmm.
and he's that's what I think. And then as long as he knows if he's got a little leeway, you always take it. So I think if he knows he's got to be under 20, that's I think the most. I think
you have
the
to put a
most
little more
would be-
pressure on them to perform better. I see what you're
Right.
saying.
Well, I
Yeah.
think the most would be to leave the SOP the same. That would be my motion.
What do you think, Larry?
Sounds good to me.
I'm good with keeping it the same. I agree with you. 20 minutes allows them, it puts a little pressure on them to perform better.
I think that's
I mean, it sounds like in practice, likely what we do is reasonable time now anyway. But
right.
I honestly, we probably got bigger fish to fry at the
I
moment.
think so. I think that officer safety and everything being out there on the side of the road. I think we'll try and get there as quick as we can. Try and get them there in 20 minutes, and I want to keep that. My motion is to leave it the same. We all agree? Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, I think that's all right, Chief. We just keep it as is for right now, and maybe we'll look into it again later.
All right, thank you.
Survey results. We did get our survey back. We received 26 survey responses of the 34 people invited. That is actually a very high percentage of participation for a survey like this. Of those 26 respondents, 23 left written comments. That's a level of comment participation is extremely high and unusual. It would appear we received a good deal of buy-in from our department on the attempt to solicit feedback. Please note that those comments were and will continue to be held in confidence, just as we promised the officers we would. We scored over 40% positive in 6 of the 14 categories, with safety and discretionary effort being the highest scoring categories. We found opportunities for improvement, as my boss likes to call them, in 3 categories, with compensation and rewards scoring the lowest, followed by leadership and culture and values. In the compensation and rewards category contained the question most needing our attention. That question was, I am satisfied with how frequently my organization recognizes employees' individual performance and work contributions. That was our lowest scoring single question, with 65% of respondents disagreeing with that statement. 50% also disagreed that they feel appreciated, and 50% of respondents were neutral regarding their compensation. I would very much like to thank everyone who participated in the survey. Your feedback has been invaluable and will guide this commission as we strive to do a better job for you and the town of Mooresville. And sincerely, thank you very much. If there's any officers working at home, any officers who took this survey, we really appreciated the feedback, and I think we learned a lot from it. We discussed that in our executive session on Tuesday quite a bit. It was the point of that session, but it was like 2 hours long. So, Next up, the incentive pay proposal we talked about last time. I've been working on the incentive pay proposal with the chief and the town council. Received some input from the town council and from the chief, and I've amended the proposal. I think I gave you guys both a copy of that the other night and tonight. This updated version includes preferred staffing levels that would require defined and the town council has asked that we put together a defined application process. Because it affects their pay, there needs to be checks and balances put in place. The chief and I found a way to fund the incentive pay for the officers currently trained in these fields. Additional training will need to be planned for and budgeted year to year until we get up to the staffing levels we want. In this way, we can gradually increase the number of officers receiving the incentive pay and fulfill our preferred staffing levels. One of the things the chief expressed to me is right now it's kind of hard to find people who want to do that training. Hopefully this incentive pay will fix that problem, or at least help with it. And then by having the application process, we make sure that like not one person's getting all the training and things like that. It'll have a check and balance with, we're actually going to use the same procedures for promotion. So the lieutenants will be involved, the chief will be involved, and we'll be involved. So that way there's checks and balance all the way down.
Sure.
One of the ways to get it funded, though, is to look at how can we fund the officers who currently have this training, and then we're just going to have to ease into it every year in the budget and say, hey, we're adding this much because we want to add an evidence technician or whatever this year. Right, so we're going to have to plan ahead for it a little bit, but in that way we can hopefully build the department, get better skills, and get these guys paid for those skills. So that's the current plan. And I need you guys to either give me the feedback on that, or we need to approve it so the town council can do something with it, but I mean, that's what I've come up with.
As long, I'll approve it, I just wanna make sure everybody, it's on an equal, fair, that everybody has a chance. If that's what they wanna do, then for another 50 cents or whatever the pay is, then I wanna make sure he's got that ability.
But I think it's important too. When we increase their human capital, when we give these guys better skills, they're a more valuable employee, right? And the only way to properly recognize an employee with better skills is on their paycheck, or else someone else will pay a higher price for those skills. That's how the market works.
That's it.
So I think this will help with that also.
Okay.
And I put together a general rule, 2019-1, for the incentive pay training process. It won't take effect unless the town council approves the incentive pay. And it basically just states we're going to link it to the SOP 1.03, which is our promotion process. So if we ever change our promotion process, it'll also change this process.
Okay.
They'll be linked together, so as the department grows, it just stays in line. So I make a motion, we approve General Rule 2019-01 so we can get this incentive pay thing rolling.
I'll second that.
All in favor? You got it, Larry?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So that's that one. Hopefully we get some movement on that. Charles, you got anything old?
Other than, we want to make sure that when these motions, when the general rule is potentially approved tonight, that the signatures be done tonight as well, if there's an approval.
Gotcha.
That's the only thing I
Yeah,
would
we'll take
mention.
care of that at the end. New business, chief. I heard something happen.
Yes. Not very proud of it myself. Here is the interdepartments. I'm gonna pass them around. It's the accident review board pertaining to my accident. Enclosed there is the Indiana crash report. It was handled by Morgan County Sheriff's Department. Interdepartment memo by interdepartment case report by me. Supplement by McGoy. And then I had the review board review it. So the top page is their findings.
Yeah, just so we're all on the same page. Walk me through the process. When any incident happens, like an accident, the evidence goes to the review board, right?
The chief can call and convene your review board at any given time, whether it be for conduct, whether it be for use of force, accidents, so on and so forth.
Right.
What I've kind of started is accidents, we review them, and this is one of them that we have. It goes to the review board. The review board, there's a directive on that, stated that the chairperson is the captain, and currently the 3 lieutenants sit on that board unless they're personally involved. Then their findings then comes back to me. as the chief of police, and then we address it from there, whatever we feel was pertinent to the cause. In this case here, since I was personally involved, I feel that it's the course of action is to bring it to the police commission to let you guys sit there and review the findings of the review board.
Fair enough. Just wanted to make sure we were all clear on how the process normally works, and that's your standard process for any accident, right?
Correct.
The evidence goes to the review board. They look to see if any SOP has been violated, right?
Any SOP, any directives, any rules, regulations, anything that's been violated. They give us recommendations. I had an incident to where I had the review board actually review an incident just to come back with any policy changes, any procedures, anything else that we could conduct and we could do. So we use it just as kind of a review of any and all that we feel necessary.
Appreciate that.
My question is, you know, we're doing surveys, we're doing what we can. We want everything to be fair here. What they've recommended, is that the normal for the first time accident? And
I have a stack of reports in my office. There's, I believe, 9 of them that I'll be more than happy to share with you.
well, my question is just that I just want to make sure that if a 2-year veteran had the wreck or 35-year chief, I want to make sure they get the same thing. And then what I look is, and there's been, you know, I've heard, I don't see anything about a car. So what would you do for a car? Will you use
My car, from the body shop, the estimate, everybody believed my car's total. I reissued me another car. We had more cars than we have officers right now. So currently, the 3 reserves have cars that I've issued to them, and I took the detective cars that was out back.
does like 2nd-year officer, 10-year veteran, does he get a car issued or does he drive it to and from work? His
Depends on
personal
when we had the
car?
cars. In the past, we've never had enough cars to go around.
I want it to be fair.
Sure.
At the end, if we're doing it, if a guy that's been on for 10 years and he wrecks his car and he doesn't get one back until, say, 2 weeks, then way I understand it, then he has to drive a pool car.
Correct.
That he drives his personal car to here, picks it up, and then works, and then goes back, picks his personal car up, and then drives back. I think that's the way, is that the way it goes?
That's the way it has been because we've only had 1 spare car.
Well,
Currently,
what you're talking about is when
4.
they suspend the take-home car.
Right.
Right.
I
And you'll
don't- I
notice
want
that's
everybody
actually what they
treated fairly
recommended here. And when I did come in on Monday and review those,
Okay.
the history of those, and it seemed pretty consistent with what Chief said. And our first offense is based on whether or not this is the first time you've ever had an accident or not. You lose your car for 1 day, and you do remedial training on basically the defensive driving with Sergeant McGee, right? McGoy, sorry.
I wanted to add something, that I've been
Sure.
handling police disciplinary cases as a concentration in my law practice for the last 42 years. And this recommendation would be fairly typical all across the state of Indiana. There's nothing unusual about their recommendation as far as penalty goes.
Okay, because I don't want to hear from a 10-year veteran tomorrow, go, hey, the chief's got his car and took it home. He took mine. I didn't get that, you know,
Now,
so.
part of the disparity is normally the review board can meet immediately. The
Okay.
chief can review it. It happens much faster. But in this case, it's the chief. They rely on us for that penalty. So, I mean, we've got public access. We can't just hold a meeting anytime we want, right? We just happen to
Yeah,
have one
that's the reason
scheduled.
why
So
we had to wait till tonight.
that's why we had to wait till tonight. Because it's up to us to discipline the chief.
You see where I'm coming from?
Yes, and,
That-
and again, if my car is totaled because of the situation that we have, there won't be a new car purchased. We have an abundance amount of vehicles right now, that being one of them, that's just gonna go right back into the fleet. So that money will be put back into the general fund upon the end of the year. When we go to purchase new vehicles, we'll get an additional vehicle with that money. Because again, we have an abundance of vehicles.
And it looks like the review board has recommended 24-hour loss of the police, use of the police vehicle to take home, and they've recommended the remedial training.
Well, I just hope I don't hear from an officer that says, took my car for 2 weeks, why didn't you take his? And I'm not trying to be out of the way here, I'm
Sure.
just telling you, that's what we're, just as long as we're doing all this work, they're trying to make it fair, the surveys and everything we're doing, we just gotta make sure we do it right.
And this comes from the lieutenants, right? I mean, if they felt like it wasn't fair, I feel like they would have recommended more. This would have been their chance to recommend more.
Okay.
So do you want to go with the recommendation, or you want to do something different? I mean, what are your thoughts? Larry, you're awful quiet.
I think just go with the recommendation. Everybody's agreed with it.
Again, not to beat a dead horse here, I'm just saying, as long as everybody is treated the same.
From
If
what I
everybody
saw,
loses
first
their
offense,
car
this
for
is what they
24
get.
hours, then I'm okay with it. But if they've lost it for longer than 24 hours, just because he's a chief, I just think I want to be
I agree
fair
with you.
here.
And that's why I came in to review them.
Okay, as long as nobody's lost it over 24 hours, then we're good.
Unless it was a second offense, there were some
Okay.
higher penalties for
So it's taking the car for one day.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, I recommend we go with I guess I make a motion, we go with the recommendations of the review board. They would know better than us anyway, honestly.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay, I'll third it.
That's what we're doing then, Chief. When are you gonna do that, by the way?
Do you wanna make a recommendation, or you want me to punish myself?
Well, I meant like, which day are you planning to do that, or should we
Well,
give
I think
you
we
that
set
directive?
that day.
All right. When you wanna do it?
We'll do it Monday morning, 7 o'clock.
Does that sound good? All right. Okay. Where are we at? This personnel document request. And Charles, stop me if I've got anything wrong here.
Okay.
So, the request was made recently by a town council member for a large number of documents and recordings. Many of those documents are sensitive in nature, and they relate to personnel issues going back as far as 5 years. Among those requests were all the recorded audio and video related to the chief's accident, which was still under investigation by the review board at that time. This request was made via text message. We still haven't received a written request, right? Chief?
No.
Because of the sensitive nature of the request, the chief contacted me, and then I contacted Mr. Braun, our legal counsel, for direction on what we are and are not legally allowed to share. Aside from a small portion of the requested documents, which fall under normal freedom of information rules, the release of this information would require review and action by this commission. Like anything in an ongoing investigation, and certainly sensitive personnel documents would require us to take action and say, yes, this is okay to release. On advice of both our counsel and Mr. Daniels, the town council lawyer, we've asked this request be submitted in writing via standard Freedom of Information form to adhere to departmental rules, Mooresville Town Council record request policy, and the requirements of the state of Indiana. This procedure ensures we have a record of who requested what documents and when. The chief and I spent at least 2 or 3 days dealing with the matter last week and this week. I'd like to make sure the chief has direction from this commission so we do not have to spend any more of our time and taxpayer money talking to legal counsel about it next month. I personally believe it is the intent of this request to verify the commission has handled the matter of the chief's disciplinary action appropriately. It is my opinion that the release of the accident reports and the disciplinary actions associated with them would be sufficient in that endeavor. So in the interest of transparency and cooperation, I would make a motion, we approve the chief to release any accident reports and associated disciplinary action to any town council member who follows the appropriate written procedure as required by the Mooresville Town Council Public Records Request Policy. Thanks, Charles. That was a mouthful. Between now and our next meeting, So anytime they want to request it between now and our next meeting, we'll release those as long as they follow the rules. I also move that we waive any of the usual fees that may be associated with obtaining those documents. Any requests made for information beyond the accident reports, their associated disciplinary actions, and normally available public information will need to be reviewed by this commission prior to release on the basis of need versus the sensitivity to our officers' private information. I had Charles help me write that.
Yeah, I did that on your own.
But I understand, and you know, we got a town councilman here, maybe she can chime in on that, but I think that's why they're requesting the documents, as you said, to make sure that everything that we just did on the disciplinary action is in line with historical disciplinary action. So if we release the accident reports and the disciplinary action, and the disciplinary actions usually include a write-up of what the review board said, their suggestions, so I think that should be enough for them to double-check our work, and I'm fine with that. That's totally within their rights to double-check our work.
The town council a few years ago adopted a specific policy for the release of public records. The town clerk treasurer, under that policy, is the main conduit for receiving and providing in cooperation with the department head. In this case, of course, would be the police chief and the police commission. And I have discussed this with the attorney for the town council, and we both believe that the town council public records policy is reasonable and defensible under Indiana law, the Indiana Public Records Law, and this motion is certainly in line with that as well.
Okay, good. So yeah, it is what it is. She's got, I mean, they have that for a reason. If some of that recording leaks out, a snippet of it taken out of context, it ends up on the 11 o'clock news. We'd be sitting here asking the chief, why don't you have a documentation of who you gave that to, right? Why is there no paper trail? The paper trail's there for a reason, and
I agree.
that's all there is to it. But I want to make sure the chief has direction from us so that we don't have to hem and haw over the next month to say these documents were good, release them, and if it's anything under the normal public information, release them. We'll waive any fees for the town council. They certainly should have access to
Absolutely.
it. So I make that motion.
I second it.
I'll vote for it.
Awesome.
Can I get some clarification on just what exactly to release, because you went through that rather than...
I wrote it down. Actually, I have an official motion here. I think you have a
Well,
copy.
I have a copy of that.
I think so.
Accident reports associated disciplinary action to any town council member.
Yeah, and any other normally publicly available information. Right.
So the review board itself, and then my findings, crash reports, interdepartment memos, so on and so forth.
Well,
Is that correct?
I don't think I went that far. It was the accident reports, the associated disciplinary action, and anything that would normally be public
Okay,
information.
well, there's two. There's the review board, and then there's my findings.
There's a review board, normally public information, so then, yeah, sure.
So all of it.
Yeah.
Do you have a copy of the town council public records policy?
Yes.
You know, the important thing is to follow that.
Yep. We
And
have
what
that.
the
We have
commission
the
is
forms
saying.
and everything else.
And, you know, whether it's a council person or a private citizen, the intent is for that town council public records
Yeah.
policy to be followed.
I'm asking for another
I have a
copy.
question, Mr. Wonder.
Sure.
Did that wording say that the commission needs to know the reason why someone's requesting the
I mean, it
information?
depends on what they request, but I mean, we also have to protect the privacy of the officers. I mean, I don't want somebody just going on a big, wide document dump looking for trouble. So, I mean, that would be a factor. I suppose you don't have to tell us.
I
Right.
believe you don't have to tell.
No.
Right, you wouldn't have to tell us,
Indiana
but
law
it
does
would
not
probably
require
help us
that.
understand why you want it,
I just
right?
thought,
I mean,
I
yeah.
thought you said you have to name the reason why.
No,
I
no,
don't know.
no, you don't have to. It would be nice to know, I think, then we would understand what was going on a little better, but yeah, you don't have to legally. A FOI request is, here's my name, here's the date, here are
That's-
the documents I request. I
Well,
mean,
it
it's-
should be.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
not.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
If the town board member is requesting this information, are they doing it for the town board or are they doing it for themselves individually? If it's for the town board, then we should know what they're doing.
I can't answer their motivation, but I mean, yeah, I mean, freedom of information, again, the documentation's there.
There's-
Anybody who requests it, just here's my name, here's the date, and here's the information I want.
But I'm saying if there's coming in saying, here's my form that I filled out, are you saying you're wanting it for the town council, which involves 5 people?
Right.
Or are you saying it's for one individual, myself?
It
Well,
usually
the only way
goes to the
that
clerk's
official
office.
town council action can be done is when there is a formal resolution presented to the town council and a vote, by majority vote, is adopted requesting a formal request on behalf of the town council.
So
If
then-
an individual town council member does it without having a resolution passed, that town council member is a citizen making the request.
So if it's through the town council, then that should be discussed at the meetings.
There would be a
The peop-
vote.
The town of Mooresville.
That's a good
should
point,
know
Charles. I hadn't thought of
what's
that.
going on. Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Well, that's done. Next up is the Police Commission Recognition Program. It was made very clear to this commission in the results and comments of the survey that we need to take a more active role in this department. And we need to not only be an administrative and political buffer between the town council and the department, but we need to make a better effort to get to know the people working for us and do a better job showing our appreciation for all the hard work they do. In that spirit, I'm proposing Standing Rule 2019-2, which would create a police commission recognition program, and basically on their 5 years, we'll bring them to the police commission meeting, recognize them, give them a little certificate. I know it's not much, but I feel like that would help us get to know them a little better. And also, let me read what I actually wrote up. The Police Commission shall invite officers to meetings to recognize their dedication and service every 5 years they are with the department. Other awards or recognition may be presented at the discretion of the commission as they deem fit and appropriate, either at public meetings or at other events. I know we discussed a lot of options in our executive session, maybe having a party, maybe having the guys actually vote on some of those things. Some of them may even be funny. I don't know exactly where we're going to go with it, but we need to start recognizing our officers for a job well done a little better, and we as a commission need to do that. And certainly anybody who's watching at home, if you have a great idea, especially the officers, of like, hey, I think awards for this would be hilarious or awesome or whatever, please let us know. We would love to get that feedback. So I'm proposing that we also start that general rule so we can kind of start doing that.
Okay.
Thoughts, comments?
No, I agree. I'll make a motion to pass that. We'll just,
Larry?
on the general rule. Okay.
All right. It's all of us.
I assume you're wanting our signature here?
Yeah. We got two general rules we got to sign at the end here.
Okay.
Leadership and communications training. Another thing we talked about a lot, especially in the appreciation and communication, a lot of the results from the survey. I think we can do better on our leadership team with some leadership and communications training. I'm personally looking outside the law enforcement realm because I think that would help change the culture quite a bit. I know Charles had recommended quite a few. The chief has recommended. Me and him have actually been working on it quite a bit since Tuesday, looking for alternatives because the one I found is a little pricey. But the chief and I came up with some ideas, but they haven't panned out yet. We've still got some lures in the water, I guess. But it's something we're going to continue to work on, and I wanted to bring it up to let people know that that's something we're looking into. And we're thinking lieutenants and above, everyone should take a little bit of leadership training, a little bit of communications training. Even the chief has expressed, and some of the senior staff too, that these new guys coming in, they just communicate different. And we have the same problem in the private sector, right? I mean, you talked about it before in your business, right?
Sure.
These young guys coming in, they just communicate different,
Right.
and they respond differently to a different kind of leadership style. And we need to evolve with those times. So we're still trying to find an affordable solution to that. But that's something we want to do for the leadership here and anybody who ends up in leadership to get through that training and give them the skills and tools to succeed, right? So that's something we're also looking into, and it's just really an update because we don't have anything to present.
Right.
So, but I think that's it. Unless you guys got anything else? I mean, I know I hogged all
we're good.
the stuff. Shane will tell you I like to talk. Charles, you got anything new for us?
Nothing other than what I've already mentioned, other than I want to commend the commission for its leadership efforts here. I think it's really great work.
I hope so. We'll find out.
Thank you, Charles.
And next meeting will be July 18th, 2019. Anybody got anything else? Public comment? Anything? Okay. No? You guys ready to get out of here then?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second. Let's do it. Let's,
You want this?
yeah, we need to sign a couple of these. You got
Yeah.
one?
Yep.
Okay.
Let me have yours.
That was -2. Hold on. I brought so many papers.
I would like copies of so many of them.
I gave you copies of everything, I think. Believe it or not. Ah, here it is. 01.
Yeah, I got one.
There you go. Get all of our signatures on the same
Special
page.
rule.
Special, okay.
the commission can make general and
Okay,
special.
so I got general
Special
rule,
ones are
incentive
just
pay,
one at a
general
time.
rule, recognition.
Where this is more of a
Oh,
standard.
you already gave me the motion to share documentation,
Yeah.
so.
I tried to make sure you had everything,
Sorry.
Anthony.
Hooked me up.
Alright, there's that one. That's 02.
And the date is on it?
Not yet. I was gonna let Amanda do that, because she's way more legible than we are.
And I'm gonna ask for a couple.
Take whatever you want, Anthony. You just pick through it.
Yeah, I just need actually,
Appreciate it.
You need to,
actually, I don't need a copy.
you need to sign this one.
Yep. Okay. Amanda, did you get both, or just one?
You need 2 copies of 01 and 02. So 4 total.
Yeah, that's what they told us at the beginning, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Lundy, are we releasing stuff here? Are we taking pictures, releasing documents? Is the forms filled out? You know,
It'll be at the clerk's office. That's the procedure.
his request for that's already been completed,
His request for.
whatever he's taking pictures of?
Oh, this, the record service?
Oh, that was just the
That's just
findings
The findings.
of the record service.
I mean, I can also just play back my tape where she read off the paper and take 3 more
Okay.
minutes.
Is this your copy or mine?
Here's your copy.
Okay. It was presented at a public meeting, right?
Yes.
Okay.
If he wants a copy, he can ask for it right here.
All right.
So, I wanted to say thank you for
What
having.
happened?
Yeah, another.
What are we talking about?
So that-
Wait,